Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com here. And I decided to do a video. I got actually an email from a buddy of mine, Chris Hawks. I'm on his YouTube channel here because he did this video about this article that Joel Spolsky wrote, which I saw trending on Hacker News. And he wanted me to do a video to get my take on this. So I have very similar take on this as Chris. I don't know which one of us is more pissed off about this. Yeah, this is I I don't want to be like negative, like super negative and call Joel Spolsky an asshole, but in this area he's a fucking asshole. This is some pretty bullshit that he wrote here. And I don't like to do that very often. I really don't like to say that kind of stuff. But honestly, this is supporting slavery. We're not slaves. We're human beings. So you can watch Chris's video here on this, and he did a good job. I thought I'd weigh in and put my input here on this. I'm going to go ahead and go to the article. And so this is about developer side projects that Joel wrote. And pretty much what he wrote in this article, you can check it out. You can check out the link. We'll put the link here for this article. But what he basically said about this was that he said a couple of things. So he said pretty much 100% of developers working for other people end up signing some kind of proprietary invention agreement, but almost all of them misunderstand what's going on with that agreement. Most of the developers think that the work they do at work belongs to their employer, but anything they work on at home or in their own time is theirs. This is wrong enough to be dangerous. So I'm going to call 100% fucking bullshit on that. First of all, okay, at least I'm going to speak from the United States, from America. We live in a fucking free country. I don't give a shit what someone signs or has you sign. If you work on something on your own, it belongs to you. If someone wants to challenge you on that shit, take them to court. Now, with that said, I'm not a lawyer. This isn't legal advice, like I'm saying. But that's bullshit. That is total bullshit. Don't sign something that signs it away. I've talked about this before. Definitely don't sign something that is going to sign away your right. If someone says, hey, we want to own everything that you produce while you're working for us, give them the finger. Tell them, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sign away. You're not a slave. And here's the thing. This is why this doesn't stand up. I don't care what a lawyer says about this, but this is why this will not stand up. Because we're not a slave. We're not slaves. We can't sell ourselves. We can't actually sign away our rights 100%. And that's what this is saying here, right? You own yourself. Someone cannot buy you. They cannot own you. That is the end of slavery. It doesn't matter if you say that you're willing to become a slave and that you're willing to be a slave. It's still not legitimate. So it doesn't matter what Joel is saying here. I can't believe he would advocate this kind of viewpoint, and it doesn't matter what anyone says. This is a right that you should fight for. There's no way, absolutely no way that you should. This is akin to slavery. It honestly is. If someone can own what you do on your own time, right? There's a difference here. Now, as an employer, as an employer having employees and having people work for me, I obviously want to make sure that when that they're doing the job that I've paid them to do, and that they're not using the time that I'm paying them to make money on their own. Okay, that's key and that's important, and I totally agree with that viewpoint. But at the same point, you can't own someone. You can't. This isn't indentured servitude. You cannot own someone and buy them outright. You can buy their service and their time. And I think one thing that Joel has misunderstood completely about employment and about freedom and about basic human rights is that when you pay an employee, you pay them to do a job. Okay. And in my opinion, I don't care how long you spend on that job or what you do during your time, as long as you do the job that I've paid you to do. If you produce the results for me and you do that in less hours, that's great. If you do it in more hours, that's great, but I'm paying you to do a job. And when you're an employee working for a company, that is what they should be doing. They shouldn't be paying, unless you're being paid. If you're being paid by the hour, that's totally different. Then you're being paid to work. You should be working. You shouldn't bill any hours that you're not working. But if you're being paid a salary, if you're an employee of a company, you're being paid to do a job. You've got an agreement of what you're going to do, right? And you could have that agreement mean that you're going to work a lot of extra hours, but it has to be defined up front. What is it? What is your job? What is your objective, right? And that's, again, not everyone shares that viewpoint, but I think that's the better viewpoint. So I'm going to break down into some of the things that he says here. So he basically comes out to this question. So let's consider this question. If you're a developer working for a software company, does that company own what you do in your spare time? Of course they don't own what you do in your spare time. This is bullshit. This is ridiculous. I can't even believe that he would advocate this. What state or country you're employed in. Okay, maybe in a different country, but I'm going to talk from the US viewpoint here. And he's got some ridiculous notion here, a few different things here. But one of the big things that he's really got messed up here is I just can't even believe the example that he's got. Like, he'd pay a game designer $6,000 a month to invent new games, and then someone would think that they own all the games that this game designer invented, even though they didn't invent them during work time. Right. So I will say one thing, though. I do have to say one thing that I have to detract from what Chris said here, which was Chris said that this is why we need to form unions and have unions for software developers. I totally disagree with that. That is going far the opposite wrong. That's not the solution to this problem. The thing is, like, let people do this shit. Let Joel do this shit, okay? Because you know what kind of people he's going to get working for him if this is his policy, and if he encourages people to do this, let him. This is free, just as much as you need to be free to be able to do your work and to be able to be paid for your work and to own your own time and not be a slave. He needs to be able to be free to do this. If he wants to create these burdensome contracts and try to obligate people and try to own them and see what happens when they take him to court, when they actually do invent something worthwhile on their own, if he wants to get the kind of employees that would sign this, that are willing to go along with this and encourage other people to do this, that's fine. That's fine. I'm always going to hire entrepreneurs. I'm always going to hire people that want to actually like create something for themselves in life, that have the motivation, that have the entrepreneurial spirit, that are doing something on the side because they want to grow and develop. Let him do that. That's fine. We don't need to unionize. We don't need to organize. We don't need to, that's the opposite of freedom. That's strong arming the other way. Everyone should have the freedom, right? He has the freedom to express this opinion. It's totally true. It's a bullshit opinion because it's ridiculous. It's going against basic human rights and dignity, that you could own someone's life. That's absolutely ridiculous. But he has the right to express that opinion, to have that opinion, and we don't have the right, at least I don't believe so, as software developers, to collectively come together and force employers to be stripped of their rights. Just as much as he doesn't have the right to strip you of the right of your free time, you don't have the right to strip him from the ability to express that opinion or to try and do that. Let him try. It's the whole thing with if you don't like a situation, if you don't like a job situation, get out of it. We're not, it's not like, again, and some people say, well, unions this, unions that, John, why, we have all these problems and people abuse and we have exploitation and stuff if we don't have government regulation and if we don't have a minimum wage and if we don't have union. Well, here's the thing. we don't live in the days of Animal Farm. We don't live there has to be a certain level of regulation, right? I'm not an anarchist, but it has to be minimal, right? We need to make sure that people aren't being harmed in their jobs, that they're not, that the work environments are safe, that they're not being killed in the process of doing their jobs. There's certain things that we don't have child labor, that people who are not able to make their own decisions aren't, that they're not being exploited, right? Things like that. That I agree at the very basic level, but we need to have the smallest amount of restrictions on entrepreneurs' freedom as we possibly can, and let the people make the choices, and let the bad entrepreneurs that do stupid shit, like Joel in this case, let them suffer from the consequences. Now you might say, oh, well, Joel's really damn successful, but I agree with Chris on this one, where he said that that Stack Overflow is it's not a freaking genius piece of software. It's great. I like it. I'm not going to say that it's bad. And Joel has had a lot of success in his life, but it doesn't mean that you can't have success and do something stupid like this, right? And a lot of times, I think Chris's opinion on this is true as well. If you watch his video, he talks about this idea that a lot of people, they achieve success and then they forget how they got there, and then they become the oppressors, right? I'm not quite as, again, I'm more for personal freedom. I don't want to oppress entrepreneurs like Joel. Let's let him do his bullshit thing, but that's where I stand on that. So just wanted to clear that up. Now let's go a little bit down into here where he says, yeah, just takes me off. I try not to get ticked off by this kind of stuff, but this really does. This is one of those things that I've said, because I think that you should have a side project as a software developer, right? You should definitely be working on something on the side for sure. Like, I'm all about, this is the other thing, that's why Chris probably pointed me to this and wanted me to comment on this, is I'm all about, like, what I think you should do is that you should be working for someone else and then building your thing on the side so you can eventually get free. And the reason why I'm so against this idea is that this cuts you off. This says, look, if you're going to work this job, you've got no chance of building something for yourself, no chance of getting free. You're just going to be an indentured servant or a slave to me or to my company. I'm going to own your life and own your opportunity for however many years you work for me, and you're not going to be working your way out. That's ridiculous, right? I've always encouraged people to get that side job, start building that side business, and eventually build and buy your freedom. And you should be able to do that. Now, he goes on to say that, some bullshit here where he says, software developers, as you can tell from this thread, found the situation to be upsetting. They always imagine that they should be able to sit down at their own room at night in their own computer, writing their own code for their own purposes, and own the copyright and patents. So along came state legislators in certain cases like California, but not others like New York, for example. These state legislatures usually pass laws that said something like this: anything you do on your own time with your own equipment that is not related to your employer's line of work is yours, even if the contract you sign says otherwise. This I totally agree with. This is what life is. I don't care. This is always going to hold up. Try whatever bullshit you may and make this be not true. You're going to lose. Fight people in court that try. I mean, don't purposely pick these fights, right? Like, don't be stupid. Don't sign something that says otherwise. That's just asking for trouble. But know that ultimately this is going to prevail, because this is humanity. This is the opposite of slavery. No one can own you. They can't make you sign a piece of paper that gives away your rights to your own personal time and property. You can work for someone, but they cannot own you. Now, he goes on to say, because this is the law of California, and this particular clause is built into the standard no-load contract, and most of the standard contracts that California law firms give their software company clients, so programmers all over the country might as well have this in their contract, even if the state doesn't require it. Okay, that's fine. Now, he tries to dissect this, and he basically tries to say, and this is just ridiculous. on your own time, easy to determine, I imagine. Yeah, it is. When you're at home with your own equipment, trivial to determine. Yes, not related to your employer's line of work. So he tries to say that this blows a hole in the whole thing because your employer could be doing all kinds of stuff like Google and it's related. This is like so ridiculous that I mean he didn't even define the actual legal term here. It doesn't even say it here where he said this, right? He doesn't even say that. But this is ridiculous. He's on the side that the judge is likely to be friendly to poor employee against big bad Google, but you can't depend on it. So he at least admits that, but he's arguing for the other side. He's arguing for the big bad employer. Again, I'm on the side of the big bad employer having their freedom, but I'm not on the side of them restricting someone else's freedom. But he's actually trying to argue that employers need to that this law, that this legal requirement is so ambiguous that it's on the side of employers, that any company could say that they're in that line of business. And that's bull crap, because the intent of this is to make sure that, I mean, sure, you can't take something from a company that you're working for and build something from knowledge that you got from the job and totally rip them off and compete with them. That's the spirit of the law there, right? That's the whole idea, is that, and that makes sense. But if you're building your own side project and it really doesn't have anything to do with the core business that your employer is involved in, or and it's your own thing, that's your own thing and you own that thing. So I've talked about this way too long now. I don't, this is really, really sad that he would advocate this and not advocate developers creating their own side projects. I can't even understand this at all. But again, the solution to these kind of things, I would tell you, is one, what should you do as a software developer? Okay, first of all, don't sign bullshit agreements like this so that you're going to get into trouble, right? And I've done some videos, I'm sure, about this before, but don't sign those things. Say, no, I'm not going to sign over all my rights. What I work on for you, I will, you pay me for, and that's what you get, but you don't get to own my life. And two, if you're already in this situation, it's bullshit. It's not going to hold up. It's not. I honestly, again, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, but let them take you to court. Fine. Let them try. There's no way that it's going to hold up. And unless you're in the wrong and you're in the wrong. If you're using the company's equipment and time, and you're doing this during work time, and you're building something directly that competes with the company that you're working for, that's obviously related to stuff that you worked on at work, okay, then you should expect to get screwed, and you are going to get screwed, and it's your fault. And then I would say this: we don't need to go the other way, right? The answer to this problem is that we don't unionize. It's not that we restrict employers from doing this kind of stuff, or trying to do this kind of stuff. We know that you can't. These are inalienable rights. You can't take away the right of someone's freedom just because someone signs a contract. But we don't go the other way, and we don't say, okay, well, we need to put all these provisions and all these restrictions. If you want entrepreneurship and you want companies to thrive, you got to remove restrictions from them. You can't put restrictions on them. At the same time, there are some limits, right? You can never sign away your freedom. We have to make sure that stays the case. But I'm not for solving these problems by going backwards so hard the opposite direction either.